This is What's Your Favorite Movie, a podcast that celebrates film fandom, our favorite movies, and why we love them. My name is Ed South, and thank you for joining us on another fun-filled show all about movies. You can follow our show on Twitter at WYF Movie Podcast. And today's show is very special because we're bringing back our very first guest, my dearest friend in the whole wide world, Grant. Grant, how are you doing this evening?
Hello, sir. I'm just another schmuck with an opinion.
That's what you said in the first show.
On the internet.
On the internet.
Did you know they have those on the internet?
Schmucks with opinions.
There's a few of them.
And on television now, too, especially with election season.
There you go. So am I the official Star Trek resident expert now?
If that's the title that you'd like to have, you
I'm
may.
not really sure I want that, but that's what I've become.
You may adopt it. Grant was on our first episode, and his favorite movie was, and for always shall be, Star Trek II: The Wrath of Khan from 1982, and so I thought we should have Grant back on when the new Star Trek movie comes out, which just came out a couple of weeks ago. And there was a couple of things that I hadn't mentioned when we recorded the first time that I wanted to get to. So we said, let's do a Star Trek episode all about Star Trek. Although I also have about 10 other things I want to cram into this episode as well.
Perfect.
But Grant came up today. We went and saw Star Trek. Well, first we ate. We saw Star Trek. We had some drinks and some eats. And then we went and had some more eats.
We ate a lot today.
We had good stuff, though. So, we saw the new Star Trek Beyond. And we should remember to talk about how bad the titles are. But we'll do a couple of other things first before we get to all the Star Trek goodness on hand. And one thing that I wanted to talk about was that some favorite movie. When I use the phrase favorite movie, I think I'm talking about movies that people love. And what excites me to talk about are movies that everybody loves, but no one is going to come right out and say it. Like when we talked about Troop Beverly Hills on this show before, and everybody was really excited about that. So a movie that I love, and I know a lot of other people love and have very dear memories of, is 1984's Police Academy, not to mention its 5 or 6 sequels following it, depending on how you want to look at it. But Grant, you enjoyed the Police Academy.
I barely remember Police Academy. I remember seeing Police Academy 5
We
with
saw that
you.
in the theater,
Yes.
yeah. That was the first Police Academy to be released after my allowed to go to movies with friends phase in my life when we were teenagers. So yeah, I only got to see 5 and 6 in the theater, but I've seen them all many, many, many times. So last week at the Democratic National Convention, Bill Clinton was speaking, and he has often cited High Noon as his favorite movie, the old Gary Cooper Western as his favorite movies from the 50s. I should have had the date.
Are you familiar with that movie?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
okay.
yeah, it's a real good movie. Have you seen it?
I have not seen it.
Oh, Grant.
I was too busy watching The Wrath of Khan.
It's a Western. It's a really good Western. If you haven't seen it, you should check it out. So Clinton was talking about going over him and Hillary and their relationship from, I think their first date all the way up until that night. So he says, he's talking about their parenting, and he says, quote, "Truth is, we rarely disagreed on parenting, although she did believe that I had gone a little over the top when I took a couple of days off with Chelsea to watch all 6 Police Academy movies back to back," unquote. And I probably no sooner did that go off the air than my phone started going off and people texting me, "Did you see Bill Clinton mention Police Academy?" It was a joyous moment for us Police Academy fans. There's 6 theatrical films, and then there was a 7th one later, but he stuck with
direct-to-video or something?
There was a 7th direct-to-video called Mission to Moscow, which lost about half the cast, and the bar's pretty set pretty low for Police Academy, and 7 is not even up to that low bar that the bar had been knocked down to over 6 films. But how awesome that and Police Academy was trending on Twitter that night. That was awesome. And I found this article that Steve Guttenberg wrote. I found it on CNN. I don't know if that's who he wrote it for, but Steve Guttenberg starred in the first. How many Police Academy films do you think Steve Guttenberg held out through?
He was through 5, wasn't he?
He was in 4.
He wasn't
Yes.
in the 5th one?
No.
Oh.
Oh.
It's been a while since I've seen
He was
this.
supposed to be in the fifth one, and then he dropped out at the last minute, so they just rewrote his character as his nephew.
Seriously?
Yeah. He's like, let's see.
Who played it? Who played?
Actor named Matt McCoy, who I just saw in one of those insurance commercials or something just the other day. But Steve Guttenberg's Mahoney, right? So the character's name is still Mahoney, but it's like his nephew or something silly like that or whatever. But so Steve Guttenberg just said, while I was filming Home for the Holidays, which I think was like 96 or something, I had an opportunity to visit the White House and see Bill. One of the stories he told me was that he had a challenging few days and turned to the 6-movie package of Police Academy with his daughter Chelsea. It was a distraction of the highest order. Now I've admired his special ability to be mindful, to be present. His attention is elevated. He is at the top of the ladder and authentic. It was thrilling to hear him say it, but the meaningful takeaway was the importance of rest, rejuvenation, and recreation for all of us in or out of the White House. A president who had lots to be responsible for knew that watching comedy could provide relief and feed the imagination.
So the question is, do you think you can get old Bill on here onto What's Your Favorite Movie to chat?
Well, I read that some bigger podcast with an actual listening audience already sent that out to him, that they want him when there's some other movie podcast. So who knows? Who knows? But I doubt it. I'd be lucky enough to get somebody who played like Crook number 7 in Police Academy 6. But so, hey, that's it. Bill Clinton, one of his favorite movies is...
all 5 or 6 of his
all
favorite
6
movies.
Police Academy. And can you name any of the other Police Academy films?
Police Academy 2.
What's the subtitle?
Got me there.
Their first assignment.
Let me guess. You can name all of them.
I can. Should I?
Yes.
Okay. Their first assignment, Back in Training, Citizens on Patrol, Assignment Miami Beach, City Under Siege, and the number 7, which isn't called 7, is Mission to Moscow. So
Wow.
if you go on our Twitter at WIF Movie Podcast, you can find actually a list of all the movies Bill Clinton watched in the White House.
How much of the original cast makes it all the way through? Does some of the cast make it to 7?
Yeah, there's quite a few.
The sound effects guy make it to 7? I don't know the names of any of the actors.
I think in the 7th one you still have Bubba Smith, and you don't know.
I'm just nodding.
So I thought I'd look up also favorite movies of our 2 candidates running right now. We're not going to get political, but Hillary Clinton's favorite movies: The Wizard of Oz, Casablanca, and Out of Africa, which kind of sounds like a packaged answer.
It does.
Yeah,
I got to
that's
admit.
And then Donald Trump, who had gone on record for this long before he was running for president: Citizen Kane, The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly, Gone with the Wind, Goodfellas, and The Godfather.
Godfather, good choice.
Nothing shocking or surprising or unusual, but
The only time I ever tried watching Citizen Kane, I'd been going on about 48 hours without any sleep.
that
in
was a good
college.
idea to dig into it.
I had a really hard
Should I take a
did
nap
not.
or watch this movie, Citizen Kane?
I was pretty much looking at the inside of my eyelids for most of that movie. But greatest movie ever made, though. So.
By many accounts. Another big movie, favorite movie that's in the news right now is Ghostbusters, which finally came out. The last episode we recorded was right before it came out, and I had a chance to see it, and by gum, Grant had a chance to see it too. I thought it was pretty
Snuck out and
decent.
checked it out.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. I thought they did a good job of capturing the sort of the manic energy of the original, or at least of kind of like 80s comedies. It kind
Right,
of felt like
yeah.
one. As with a lot of movies nowadays, I didn't. The plot wasn't
No,
wasn't all that.
but it was good. It was fast. It wasn't slow at all. Like there was no downtime.
But I thought they spent too long on the like the origin story.
Okay,
You know,
yeah.
they
Yeah,
spent
like
too
how
long, like the bit with the guy in the sub. Like, can I say this? Is this a
Mm-hmm.
spoiler? 'Cause they explain like everything. This is
In the
not
beginning, yeah.
Yeah. This is not a continuation, of course, of the original Ghostbusters movie. This is like a sort of a reboot.
Which is weird because the trailer made it out that it was going to be a continuation because the trailer said like 30 years ago the city needed help, now they're back or whatever. But
Right.
they weren't back. It was different. It was different people.
Can I bring up my trailer question?
Yes, go
Okay.
ahead.
I had a point I just wanted to bring up, and I wanted to get your take on this.
I segued into it for you.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. I've been noticing, I want to say lately, but I feel bad because this has actually been going on for a long time now, how trailers have changed over the years.
Sure.
Right? Like, obviously back in the day, the cliche was the
In a World. That guy?
Right.
What's that guy's name?
Don LaFontaine. I
Okay,
believe,
there you
something
go.
like
That guy.
Yeah.
In a world where water is a precious commodity, or whatever. In a world where all women are men, or whatever. That guy. He did that thing with the voice
Right.
of God guy. He was on every trailer. It wasn't always him, of course, but it was
Right.
something like that for years. For years, it was
Yes.
like. And then all of a sudden,
Well, he died.
one day, there was that he died. But all of a sudden, that all stopped completely.
Yes.
And now that's completely gone out of vogue. And now you notice when they do trailers, there's none of that. It's all lines from the movie,
Right.
but it's actually a lot of time it's not actually lines from the movie. It's lines that you could imagine being in the movie but actually aren't. Have you
Aren't?
noticed
Okay.
that? There's a lot of, and there's actually, and I noticed even in the Ghostbusters trailer, there's actually lots of clips in the
Right.
trailer that actually are not even in the movie. And so I'm wondering, how long has that been going on? Has that always been custom to show lots of clips that actually were not in the original? That don't make it into the movie?
It happens a lot because sometimes the trailer is cut before the movie's finished.
So they're still kind of editing.
Right,
and
so they're
figuring
still
out.
editing the movie. Most trailers are edited by like a company that edits trailers or people that do that and aren't with the film, so they might have access to footage before the movie's done and they don't know what's what. But also they might want to just sell the movie a different way. Or
So
I'm sure sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it just happens.
what year did that company decide never to
Oh.
use the guy again? I want to know what year that
Probably
happened.
the year he died.
All right, maybe.
There's actually a movie called, I think it's called In a World. It's not a documentary. It's a comedy drama, but it's about movie voiceover artists that do movie trailers and other voiceover stuff. And it's called In a World, and they talk about that guy like throughout the whole movie.
It seems like if you're a movie voiceover guy now, you're just completely SOL.
Yeah, I guess you're like
Like it's not seriously, it's not used in anything anymore.
when we went to the movies today, the 3 trailers, I don't think any of them had.
I noticed that when I was watching them, and I noticed that the Ghostbusters trailer, I noticed that
Yeah.
the Star Trek trailer, and that's been going on for years now. And
I wonder if it's because that guy died that they're taking like maybe like they're just doing a memoriam to like reset who's going to be the next voice of trailers. But you're right. It's always printed on the screen, like whatever
I think
they're
it's just
going to
not.
say.
It's just not a convention anymore.
Yeah.
It used to. It was and it was a convention for decades, right?
right. Yeah, like 20, 30, 40 years.
Did you know? Have you noticed that?
Now that you're saying it, I totally am thinking about it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's just the way it is. And if any information needs to be conveyed to the audience, it's through text on the screen, usually flying down like that or
Right.
whatever. But yeah, and it usually says from the creators of Shrek. But yeah, you're right.
Yeah, and if it's like for instance, if it's like a J.J. Abrams movie trailer, there will be lines inserted over the top that take the play that
Right,
play
right.
the same role that the In a World guy
Right.
would have been playing, except that a lot of the time they're actually contrived lines that actually aren't even in the movie at all, but sound like they should be in the
Right,
movie.
right.
Anyway, I think it's
That's
interesting
a
that
good
it's
point.
evolved like that, and
Yeah.
I'd be curious to know kind of if that just happened with one trailer one day, where somebody's like, "Hey, let's try this." And
Well, they
everybody copied it, or-
definitely like. I mean, there's trends that just like go in film. I mean, that's just kind of. I mean, first of all trailers are kind of even cut the same. They all look almost
Yeah,
the same.
and they all have the same
And-
sound effects for the transitions, a little explosion and sweeping sound. Yep,
Right.
Yep.
The trailer that's out right now for the Justice League. Have you seen that?
Nope.
But it's the Batman and Flash and
Yeah.
Wonder Woman all getting together, and it's cut almost exactly like the trailer for Suicide Squad, which we saw today before Star Trek, and it's like, really, guys? Like, it just seems like they're just selling it over and over. But then look at the posters. For a while, all movie posters were half of one guy's face and half of the other guy's face in different tints,
Right.
and then like they were all kind of like Star Wars with the painting and like people posing.
Yeah,
or whatever.
the cinematic illustration
Yes,
poster
yeah.
has gone out of style. Those were actually really cool
Yeah,
too.
and now they are just like a close up of something like this. Like the Beauty and the Beast poster is just like a close up of the rose under the dome, and that's
Right.
that's all it is. Where the older one from 30 years ago,
don't go there.
25, yeah, is all the characters and stuff. But good point, Grant.
Yeah,
If anybody knows anything, let us know on Twitter or let us know somehow.
works for me.
Yeah, yeah. Well, let's jump into Star Trek Beyond, which came out recently and is the 13th Star Trek film in the franchise, not to mention the, I like to say, 6 TV series with a 7th on the way. But I see your eyes. What is he talking about? I'm
There's
sorry.
a seventh TV series. Seventh?
Well, the
TV
new one.
series?
The new one.
Is that 7? Is it really 7?
Well, there's 5. There's 5 live action series.
Oh, there's the cartoon.
The cartoon.
You're right. You're right. You know, I've never seen as big of a gigantic Star Trek geek. I've never seen the
It's good. It's
cartoon.
the whole cast. Whole cast is in. I think Roddenberry wrote them.
Oh, then it must be good.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it's made by Filmation, who did He-Man. So there's
no,
like
is that true?
yeah,
It's Filmation?
yeah. So there's like a good at least 20 to 30 drawings in each half-hour episode. But anyway,
That's great.
yes, am I right? 5 Star. Let's count down
Sure.
the Star Trek series. There's the original
Star Trek Next Generation.
TNG,
TNG.
G,
DSN 9.
Deep Space Nine,
Deep Space Nine,
DSN,
Voyager. Yep, Voyager.
Voyager.
Enterprise, unfortunately.
Enterprise.
And
The new one is Discovery.
something like that.
It's
And by the way, I saw maybe a trailer or this
Oh.
promotion for it the other day. Somebody was showing it at work.
yeah.
It looks... I can't tell if it's real or not, or if it's just something that like some fanboys put
No,
together.
probably.
Because it's just a bunch of shots of like some spaceship flying through
Well, I
space.
don't know.
and
I,
it's-
I would imagine they came out with something at Comic-Con. I wasn't paying attention enough to see that or not, but
It sort of looks like they didn't get too very far with production, and they just want to put something out there.
Right.
So they're just like, "Here's 10 minutes of a spaceship."
the new show, I believe it's called Discovery, which then if you initial it, like it's always STTOS, STTNG, is now STD.
That's a very good point.
So-
Very nice point.
Let's say real quick what happens. Do we know what happens in Star? Let's talk about Star Trek Beyond.
What did we just see? What happened? What do you think about that?
Star Trek Beyond. This is what I said immediately when it was done. And we're not going to give away the ending
Because we
mostly
don't
'cause
actually know what happened.
but we won't. There might be some teeny tiny mild spoilers, but nothing major. But the thing is, the movie works best when it is depicting these characters that we know and love, even though they're new actors. They're still the same characters.
The cast is great.
They
This
all do
cast
a
is
good.
awesome.
They do a great job of not impersonating the old actors, but playing it almost like the same way that they did. It's
Well, you know what I think? So I think what's interesting about that is, first of all, so Carl Urban
as,
right,
as Bones.
fantastic.
Yes,
Bones.
yeah.
He's a fan. He's. You're right. He's not impersonating him, but you feel like you're watching
He's
Bones.
doing
like,
it, yeah.
spot on. Yeah,
Right.
and it doesn't feel forced. And the same with what is it? Zachary
Quinto.
Quinto playing Spock. Same thing. He's like channeling him, and it doesn't
Yeah.
feel forced. And then everybody else, every single other actor has their completely own take on the characters.
Okay.
And so, and I guess we should.
I mean, I think Chris Pine isn't doing Shatner because if you're going to
No.
do Shatner, then you're going to be up there like,
Right.
"Oh, okay, let's go
Yeah, yeah.
on Star Trek." But he's doing it with the same bravado, and to me it feels like the same character, just younger, like
Yeah.
which is supposed to be. But anyway,
But I feel like no, it's weird because you feel like you're watching, sort of feel like you're watching the original
Yes.
cast. But it's interesting to watch everybody's different take on
Yes.
how they're doing the original cast, and some of them like Anton Yelchin,
right?
rest in peace. Certainly, like his take on Chekhov is completely unlike the original, but still
What's the name of the actor
That's
that played him in the original?
Walter
Oh,
Koenig.
yeah.
Is that
Okay.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So the movie succeeds when it's them interacting with each other.
When it's on a small scale.
When it's on a small scale, them playing off each other, them interacting with each other. Unfortunately, for large chunks of the movie, that is limited to 2 or 3 lines of dialogue with explosions,
Stuff's blowing
and
up around them.
whatever. And it's not mindless like an old like Bad Boys or something where things are just exploding everywhere. No offense to the Bad Boys fan base, but just it's not like a pure action explosions, but there's just so much action scenes,
Yeah.
and they just register as this is an action scene. You can't even. Am I wrong? Were we sitting too close to the screen, and you couldn't even tell what's going on? In
one
half
of the
it?
thoughts that was going through my head today while I was watching that movie was Hollywood has gotten very good at making things very spectacular.
Yes.
But they seem to have lost, in some cases, the ability to make things comprehensible.
Fair enough.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
In fact, I know you'll like this. I feel like one of the only movie studios that regularly does that well now, like making, like especially fight scenes,
Right.
make them comprehensible, is Disney.
Fair enough. When
I mean, you go to a big blockbuster and you watch the action scenes. And
Yeah.
when's the last time you saw a big action scene where you really knew what was happening?
Well, even Captain America: Civil War suffered from that. One of the couple of the fight scenes were the camera was so jumpy, you can't tell who's standing where and what's happening.
Right.
But there were plenty of shots in Beyond here where it was just like, what's going on? Plus, the there's a huge action sequence right near the front of the film. It's not the one that starts off the film, but like the next one when those things were coming into the ship or whatever.
Swarm.
Right. And it's like so early in the film, even though we know these characters and the situation, it's like we weren't invested in this situation.
So I think it's a great point. In fact, I was going to bring up a very similar point, and I hope this is not giving away too much of the plot of the movie, but there's a scene near the end of the movie where there's a space station in the movie called the Yorktown. I thought it was actually a really neat concept, right?
I thought that. Is it? Oh, now
it's supposed to be a space station, right? And
is it called the Yorktown because that's like a first settlement in America kind of thing?
They didn't explain why, but I'm assuming
such a generic-y sounding name.
Right. So this space station, it's supposed to be a Federation space station, which is supposed to be, I guess, a pretty far outpost in space, and it was a neat concept, and it looks great.
It was rendered pretty cool,
spectacular in the movie. Apparently, they shot a lot of those scenes in Dubai, and then there's clearly a lot of like CG going on where they're putting the whole thing together to look like a space station. But anyway, there's a scene with it at the beginning of the movie, and then near the end of the movie, the space station is threatened, and there's a big fight to save the space station. And so my problem with it was I thought they made a big mistake from a storytelling point of view, which was, you never spent long enough on the space station at the beginning of the movie to get invested in it in the first place. You have no emotional investment in it, other than the fact that you know that Mr. Sulu's partner and daughter are there. But other than that, there's no there's nothing that happens. There's no scene. They only spend a couple minutes there at the beginning of the movie, and then you're supposed to be concerned about this for this pivotal battle in the movie.
The investment shots, what's supposed to get you invested is a couple of quick shots of regular looking people running, screaming for their lives, like we've seen in real life.
There's a great scene. I'm sorry. There's a great scene at the end of the movie, actually, which could have been a great investment scene, but they pushed it too far to the end. So I feel like I've seen other movies make the same mistake as well, where they just don't spend you don't spend enough time with the characters at the beginning of the movie to actually care about them or their environment to then protect it.
And even though this is the 13th time we've been with these guys, you still need to pace the movie. You still need to build up investments in scenarios and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
Speaking of Yorktown, isn't that the name of in Virginia? Isn't there a Yorktown?
Yeah.
Is it Yorktown?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't like that.
That's too obvious.
It should be like Starloft 12 or Zalag 19 or whatever.
New York Town.
It looks very much like Space City from 100 movies at this point, like in Star Wars. I was thinking of Episode 2 when they're flying. I don't know what the name of the city is, but when they're flying through the sea, like these space cities always have these humongous skyscrapers that go they're already, first of all, their base is in the sky, and then they just go higher into the sky, and it's like you have space travel now, and there's inevitably going to be a spaceship crashing into this gigantic... Stop building skyscrapers in space, is what I'm saying to people, right?
The one thing that was kind of cool was they were doing the thing where they were playing around with the gravity, because it's a space station, and I guess they've got their artificial gravity, and there's that scene where they're... So some of that was kind of neat with them flying around with the fake gravity, and the whole way that the station looked, where it looked like it was kind of on a fake sphere, and everything was kind of pointing in weird angles and strange perspectives. I thought that was actually real creative, but... yeah, I didn't know why I was supposed to care about the Yorktown. So I don't know. I thought that was a big problem.
Another
with the movie.
problem.
And if are we complaining about the movie right now? Is that the segment that we're on right now? Because I've got another complaint.
You can go. You go. It's your episode.
I thought that
I'm not complaining about it. I was just a little.
No,
I was underwhelmed by it.
Yeah. Again, I mean, I have a lot of respect for this cast.
Sometimes you watch a movie and it's no good. It's no good, and you're like, that just was no good, or I didn't like that. But this one was so obvious where they kind of went wrong that it's warrants.
It had a lot of potential, and it was a little bit disappointing.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I thought was disappointing was I love Idris Elba, and I think he's a really very charismatic actor, and I just thought that he was wasted. He plays the bad dude in this movie,
right? And he's under 16 gallons of latex.
Yeah, you can't tell it's him for most of the movie. You really can't tell it's him for really any of the movie.
Because even when we should, but
he's an incredibly charismatic actor, and his talent was. I thought it was a missed opportunity. So,
fair enough. But like I said, he probably just took it because it's a high profile. He seems to still be needing that role to push him up into the upper
Super mainstream.
Yeah, like he should be headlining these movies, but whatever. And then, like I said, all this summer he's into this. He's under 20 gallons of makeup in that. He was in Finding Nemo. He was in Zootopia.
Right.
Where like when
He was hilarious in Finding Nemo.
Yeah, he was
Or Finding Dory, actually. Yeah.
Finding Dory. And and he was really good in Zootopia. Like I didn't know who he was. I mean, I knew
Right.
who he was, but that voice, I was like, who is that voice? That's awesome. And, I was
And
like,
by the way,
oh.
if you want to, I mean, he was on The Wire. A lot of people will know that.
Right.
And then he also is in the BBC series Luther. And I think that's my favorite. His
I'm
best
gonna check
portrayals
that
on it.
out.
Yeah, it's a little dark.
Is it a cop show?
It is a cop show.
How'd I guess?
It is a dark cop show.
Is it in British?
But it's on the BBC, so there's like 2 episodes a season.
Oh, okay. Is that how it is?
There's like 4 episodes a season.
What else did you not like about this movie, Grant, out of your list?
The plot. No. I mean, the plot was, weirdly, the plot was very, very, very straightforward, and yet at the same time, extremely convoluted. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I especially didn't. Neither of us knew what was happening at the end of the movie.
I said I felt this way halfway through it, and it just continued. It felt like we'd seen them do all of this before in one scenario or another. It just felt very, or maybe not even them, just other sci-fi
It felt formulaic.
films. Felt formulaic, but then every time like they interact, it was delightful and
Yes,
awesome
right.
and fun. And it was like, let's watch more of this, and then they'd go explode something or go run around or whatever.
It did make me wish for the good old days of just like the whale movie, the Star Trek whale movie.
I was going to say in two when Bones and Kirk are just
having a drink or
for
whatever.
like 14
Yeah.
minutes and just talking.
That stuff was great. I love that stuff. Of course, we're old, so there's that.
We
And
like
maybe
talking.
we just like watching people talk. We can't keep up with all
Let's
that
talk
action.
about my favorite part of the movie. What was her name?
Jayla.
Jayla. She looked like... Oh, and I should have looked up who she looks like. She looks like somebody out of Star Wars, which is now the second time that I've misquoted Star Wars on the show. But she looked like somebody out of Star Wars, but she fit in the movie fine, and she was awesome, and she helps them break into the base and beat the bad guys because she knows the way around. Because she's been... I like in movies, whenever someone's been in somewhere before, they now know how to enter it through the service entrance
Yeah.
and get through it, whatever. But she was awesome.
She was a good character.
Yeah.
And I hope they keep
They
her.
kind of
They're
set
already-
it up like, no spoiler, but they kind of set it up like she could come back and
It seems
whatever.
like they probably will, and possibly a love interest for Mr. Scotty.
This is true. There was a couple of shots in the movie too where they were like looking at like a schematic of the bad guy's base, and it looked exactly like the Death Star. Like it literally was a big ball with the indentation in it.
It does. It looks exactly like the Death Star. Yes, that's a very good point.
Anything else on your list?
No, that was pretty much it. I didn't know what to make of the movie. I mean, we just saw it. I'm still kind of. I'll put it this way. This is sad. I like Star Trek enough. I don't watch most movies twice. I like Star Trek enough. I probably would have gone back and seen it twice if I liked this movie. But
That's a one-timer.
that might be it. Yeah,
You
that might
watch
be
it
a
in
one-timer.
20 years.
Yeah, nah. I mean, as soon as it comes out on Netflix, I'll probably watch it 2 or 3 times. But in the theater,
Well, yeah,
maybe
the
not
theater.
so much.
Have you seen other Star Treks in the theater? I mean,
do you
multiple
think?
times. Multiple
Oh
times.
no, no, I don't think I have actually.
Have you seen them all in the theater?
No, all
Well,
of them.
not all of them, but like
Going back
starting with
to
4.
when I was old enough to start going to them, so like 6 or something like that. I think we saw 4 in the theater. That was a long time ago.
4
My
was-
parents took us.
4 was 90 or 80. I want to
86.
say 86. That's one of those movies that everybody went and saw. Like,
Everybody loved that movie,
Yeah.
and I mean, I know that when Leonard Nimoy directed that, and may or may not have written it, I don't remember, but he was one of the creators of the movie, and I know that he specifically wanted to make a movie that really didn't have any violence in it.
That's awesome.
And can you imagine them doing something like that today? It would be. We would love it. If it was just like them drinking and joking
Yeah.
around for 2 hours, we would love it. But I guess nobody would go watch that.
This is the 13th movie.
Yeah.
4 people have directed multiple Star Trek movies.
Nicholas Meyer,
Nicholas Meyer did,
Mr. He did Wrath of Khan. He did The Undiscovered Country.
right? 2 and 6.
Yep. And Leonard Nimoy directed 3 and 4.
Correct.
And who else? Oh, did multiple ones?
Yes.
Oh, Jonathan Frakes
Very good.
did First Contact and the dumb one after that, Resurrection.
Insurrection.
Sorry, Jonathan Frakes. What did I say? Oh, Resurrection. Yeah. Sorry, Jonathan Frakes.
And he played number 1.
Yeah.
in-
Somebody else directed more than one?
Well, yeah, you're missing a big
Oh, of course,
Ah.
Mr. Abrams.
Mr. Abrams. JJ, we had a teacher at school named Mr.
Yes.
Abrams. JJ Abrams, yeah, did the new one's directed by Justin Lin, who
Yes.
did
Fast and Furious.
Fast and Furious, yes.
And apparently who has been a huge Star Trek fan since he was a little kid.
And how awesome is that to get to do that? Like, even, like, I mean, everybody in Hollywood wanted to direct the next Star Wars because, like, everybody in Hollywood, everybody on this planet has been touched by Star Wars in one way or
Right.
another. Except you, Grant.
Yeah.
You're
I
bitter.
could care less. No, that's not that's not true.
Did you ever play Star Trek? Did you have Star Trek figures growing up?
We had one or two.
One or two,
Star
yeah.
Trek or Star
Yeah,
Wars?
Star Trek.
No. We didn't have any Star Trek stuff
You
when I
didn't
was a
pl-
kid.
did you play Star Trek?
All
like,
I
in the
have is the
backyard?
one Tribble that we got one time when we were at the Las Vegas
Yes.
Star Trek
Don't jump
experience.
ahead on my list.
Sorry, sir. No, that's all I've got. I don't even have a good Starfleet uniform. It's just terrible.
I think now's time.
I think you're right.
I think now is time.
I got to start wearing that to work.
And you had jury duty once for like a long time, didn't you? And you didn't get a Starfleet uniform the whole
Amazing.
time
Can you
that you were
believe that?
in jury duty. How great is it for
It's a
that?
travesty.
How great is it for that woman who wore the Starfleet uniform to court? You know what I'm talking about, right?
Are you
Remember?
talking?
That
Are
was
you talking
years
about the
ago.
movie? Are
No,
you talking
no.
about the okay?
In
I thought you were
real
talking about
life,
the documentary.
In real life, this woman wore her Starfleet costume to jury duty. Do you remember this?
No.
I should get the details. And I think
just
it was a
playing
little.
along. I didn't know that was a real
No,
thing.
yeah, it was like controversial a little. Like they were like, you can't wear a costume, and she was like very dead serious. Like, I'm wearing this. I'm part of the Federation,
No,
and that's like a kind of a
I'm part of the Federation. Did you say that?
stuff like that. Yes.
Did you see the documentary that came out about the I forget what it was called, the Trekkies documentary? It was
Yeah.
a loving look at Trekkies, and there
Yeah.
was a woman
I think
that
she's
ran
in
the,
it.
So she runs like a copy shop or something. And
Yeah.
she says she's like a captain
her.
of a starship.
I think that's her.
Yeah, and she wears the Starfleet uniform, and they're interviewing one of the other employees, and they're like, oh yeah, she's apparently the captain of a space vessel here locally. So I think it was a great line. And then there's the dude that fits himself into that little tiny box. Like I forget the character. It looks like he's got his head sticking out of a box that's about a foot tall, and it rolls around on the street with wheels. It's super freaky. Do you remember it? Anyway, amazing stuff. This is amazing.
Yeah, we should have mentioned those. There's two movies, Trekkies and then Trekkies 2, and they're like documentaries about just the insanity of the level of fandom of Star Trek, which is it's awesome.
Yeah.
But Star Trek, I guess Star Trek was like the first thing where people were like super fanatical about, and then other people were like, wow, you've got a problem kind of thing. Whereas now, if you walked into someone's house and they had a stormtrooper uniform like hanging on the wall or whatever, you wouldn't think anything.
totally normal.
Yeah, and Star Trek at this point, but what are you gonna do? Trekkies, you should check that out. They were on Netflix, but they are gone now. Hey, Grant,
Yes, sir.
let's take a minute and talk about, speaking of uniforms and clothing, let's talk about our good friends at DexShirts.com. DEX Shirts.com. Yes. They are some wonderful folks who have plenty and plenty of awesome t-shirts available at their website, and they have all kinds of awesome movie and pop culture nostalgia shirts at their website. This episode, we're taking a look at their new Friday the 13th shirt. It's got Jason on it, Jason Voorhees, and it says, I can kill him, and he's got his little machete up just like Rosie the Riveter in the old
t-shirt.
wartime propaganda poster. And it is a very cool shirt. And what I love about the Dex shirts is it's not just like the Friday the 13th logo and a picture of a hockey mask. Like, this is some original artwork done by a very talented artist, and then they digitally render them and print them on these t-shirts, and they look great. And this shirt looks great, and you're not going to find this at Hot Topic or at the mall or anything like that. It's a really cool shirt. Go to DexShirts.com, check them out. All kinds of stuff. They got Star Wars, they got Jurassic Park, Die Hard. This Friday the 13th shirt is really cool. And the other thing about their website is they have all kinds of movie trivia all over their website, including the 2009 remake. How many people you think Jason has killed throughout the Friday the 13th series?
Oh,
Good question.
more than 13.
More than 13.
I have no idea.
167.
Really?
167, yes. So check out DexShirts.com, and while you're there, pick out your shirts. When you get to the last page, use the promo code WYFmovie for what's your favorite movie, and you will get 20% off your order. That sounds awesome, doesn't it?
That sounds fantastic.
Yeah. So check them out. It's deckshirts.com, and that's the Friday the 13th shirt we're looking at, and we'll post that up on our Twitter so you can take a look at it and say, wow, that is an awesome shirt. One of the things that we were talking about when we were saying about doing a Star Trek show was some of the Star Trek things, if you're a fan, you can experience outside of just movies or television or books or video games or whatever else. And one thing that Grant and I got to do many years ago was experience the Star Trek experience in Las Vegas.
Actually, if I remember this correctly, this was tangentially rolled into your wedding.
Well, I didn't have a Star Trek themed wedding, but I got married in Vegas, right? So one day while we were out there in Vegas, we went to the Las Vegas Hilton and checked out the Star Trek experience, which was a ride in a museum, and there was a restaurant there.
Quark's Bar.
Yeah.
But the most important thing to remember, the takeaway is, I got a Tribble.
You got a pet Tribble. Do you still
I still
have
got
one?
it, but
yeah?
it doesn't chirp anymore.
Oh, did it?
It did chirp. It's very exciting.
How much of this thing do you remember that we did?
Yeah, I remember we went on a terrifying ride, virtual simulation.
Well, you don't like rides. So you go in. First of all, this thing opened at the Vegas Hilton in 1998, and we were there in 2003.
I didn't know it had been around that long.
Yeah, well, a few years, before we got there. And so you go in, you pay your admission. There's like a museum with some props, and if I recall the movie being a weird balance between like Star Trek is a movie and Star Trek is real. Like some of it was like here's a prop from Star Trek 4, and then other things was like here's Kirk's
25 years ago during the revolution, the robotic, the overlord. So yeah, right.
But we go into the thing, and I don't know, they walked you in or whatever, and like all of a sudden we were on the bridge of the Enterprise. Do you remember? It was awesome. It was
pretty
like
neat.
Full size, and they had, what I was really impressed with was they had a whole bunch of actors just sitting in the chairs pushing the buttons.
Do you know, I don't think I told you this at the time, but the main thing that went through my head when we walked into that simulation of the Enterprise bridge, we walked on, and I said, wow, this looks exactly like the Enterprise bridge. And it looks so fake. I was so disappointed.
Was it?
I thought it looked so fake, but it looked exactly like it, and it made me realize how fake the whole thing is.
It was the Next Generation bridge at that point, right? So you're like on there, and I think number one, what's his name, Riker, came up on the screen, and like there was like an actor who's like, screen, and like the screen lit up, and he's like, hello, you're our assistants, and you're going to help us on this mission today, blah blah blah, please fasten your safety belt.
It's pretty much like the beginning of every single other fake virtual reality
but it was so
ride,
cool. And then like the lights started going like with the siren, and like they like rushed us into the next room or whatever, and like the music was playing, and like all these dudes in their little uniforms, and they rushed us into the escape hatch, I think, or the escape pod, where and then the music's playing, and then you run in there, but then you're stalled for like 5 minutes while everyone gets their seatbelt on and stores their sunglasses, and they check 3 times or whatever, and then it's the seats are moving, and you watch the movie, and
the movie was pretty cool.
Yeah, and you fly out.
You flew around Las Vegas or something like that.
You went up in space, and we fought the.
After you went to Saturn, then you came back and you flew around Las Vegas. Yeah,
we fought the Klingons, and then like you come back and you crash into the hotel that you're actually in. So that's cool. Yeah, and you flew over Vegas, and I think the Klingon ship was flying over Vegas in the movie, and then you crash, and you get out of the ride, and it looks like you're in the basement of the Hilton, and you walk, and I remember commenting like, this is the end, like we're just in the basement here or whatever. It wasn't like real theatrical, but then as you walked by like a break room, which had the door like half propped open and blocked so you couldn't go in there, and then there was a TV on with like a news report that like the Enterprise had crashed into
right.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
And then most importantly,
you got a Tribble.
I got a Tribble.
And then there was a gift shop, and you got the Tribble.
I got the Tribble.
And I brought my friend John, who was on a couple episodes ago, I bought him a bottle of Romulan ale to take back. That's awesome. Him and his wife were big Star Trek fans. So
I believe they had a couple of Borg walking around Quark's Bar.
Yeah, and Quark's Bar was there. Now, Quark is from what?
Deep Space Nine. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There was a whatever alien species he was. I saw one
was a Ferengi.
in a Ferengi. Okay, I'm
sorry.
I don't know.
I'm sorry.
You're allowed.
No, it's terrible.
I should know that as host.
No, whatever.
But there was some Ferengis in Beyond. Did you notice? Just some like background shots or whatever.
I did not notice. That's a good catch.
I'm all actually. This is the honest to God's truth. Whenever I watch any science fiction thing, Star Wars, Star Trek, anything that has multiple alien races, can't my boy Alf just pop up one time somewhere? I just want to see like Alf in the background, or an Alf, and Melmacian in the background.
Has that actually never happened? Like even as a joke, nobody's ever thrown an Alf into the background of any sci-fi movie.
I don't think so.
Then
Not that I would know.
You would know.
Yeah, I
if it
would
happened.
know. I don't.
That is very disappointing. Well, maybe we can put in a plug. Maybe if the podcast gets big enough before the next movie is made, throw in a
Get
little
Alf
Alf
on.
action. Yeah.
Yes. I believe in in Phantom Menace, Mickey and Donald and Goofy are in the Senate room, and like
Really?
really tiny, and E.T.'s in there. That's where I got the idea. Like, well, why don't you put Alf in there? Why not?
Can they legally put ET in there?
I guess if they get permission.
Oh, I guess you're right.
I think George Lucas and Steven Spielberg
Probably
are
talk occasionally.
friends. Yeah. And then that whole Las Vegas thing closed. Las Vegas is still open, but the Star Trek experience closed September 2008.
I did not know that.
It's gone.
And I'm sad.
And they were trying to get it reopened for the first J.J. Abrams movie, and it still hasn't happened. But there was an article when I was doing some research as recently as last year that it's coming back, but it still hasn't come back. I know you're very sad.
So, do you think that with the new television show coming out, that that's going to mean anything for
It
Star
could.
Trek experiences for nerds?
I guess it depends on how well the new show takes off.
Do we know anything about the new show other than
I
that
don't.
it is Nicholas Meyer who directed
Oh.
a couple of the movies? You know that because you told me that.
That he's doing the show.
Nicholas Meyer is
Oh.
one of the writers.
Okay, Nicholas Myers.
You
is
told
one
me
of the-
that, so that's
yes,
why I
I do
know.
remember reading that. I haven't been following it. The only thing I know is that it's on this new CBS All Access, which is their streaming service that they want to launch. And people are upset that they have to quote unquote pay for the show instead of getting it for free, even though I can name 35, 50 popular shows in culture that you need to pay to watch, like anything on HBO or cable.
Blue
or,
Bloods.
Blue Bloods is on CBS. That's
Whatever.
Do you keep saying that because the alien girl that I was
I
in
just
love
like
with,
saying Blue Bloods.
she bled blue?
I just like to make fun of the show. I love the show. I already have a CBS Unlimited subscription.
Is it already a thing?
Specifically because, no, I have no idea, but I'm going to get one because
Oh,
it's
okay.
Star Trek.
And
That's
when
how
you
excited
buy
I
it,
am.
you get all 5 series, all the episodes of all the series. So that'll be exciting.
Oh, meaning all of it, like you can
You
get
get
right
all
now,
the TOS,
like, which you can
TNG.
get right now on Netflix at the moment.
Probably, but they'll probably leave Netflix and go to CBS.
Well,
and
then I will have to cancel my Netflix subscription.
Although also, well, I guess every diehard Star Trek fan doesn't have them all on DVD because that's a lot of DVDs to buy. So I'm sure.
But probably several of them do.
Yes, a few have them.
I'm thinking the woman that goes to jury duty wearing the Starfleet uniform.
She has them on
those
VHS, DVD, Blu-ray, Laserdisc.
By the way, did I tell you that I do have jury duty in a couple of weeks?
You did not. Please.
Should I-
Get just a T-shirt.
If anybody
please.
can get, will that get me out of jury duty if I,
I
show
don't
up wearing
know.
one?
Say some unpleasant things about Klingons. Maybe they'll dismiss you. The other thing I was going to mention was another Star Trek-y thing that I went to one time, and as I researched it, I just happened to be at the right place at the right time, was at King's Dominion, which is a theme park in Virginia, which was kind of the localist theme park growing up. And I don't know if you knew this, Grant, I'm obsessed with theme parks.
I hadn't gotten the memo.
So Paramount owned King's Dominion for a while, and they moved Star Trek in. And there was this thing that toured the 5 Paramount parks called the Star Trek Earth Tour, which was supposed to be like a exhibit from a museum in space that came down, and there was all these cool Star Trek exhibits. And it was actually only at King's Dominion for 2 weeks, and I happened to be there.
Was it cool?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was can't really remember much from it. I think it was pretty simple stuff, just props and artifacts and things from the movies or whatever. But I remember I did get a Star Trek Earth Tour bumper sticker for my car, so that was pretty cool. Yeah, but it was only at the park for 2 weeks. It toured the 5 Paramount parks, and then when Paramount owned King's Dominion for a while, like King's Dominion had been around since the 70s, as well as these other parks, and then they bought it in the 90s, and they started moving in all their Paramount branded characters and trying to do basically what Disney and Universal do. So they would have Klingons walking around the park like you would meet Scooby-Doo and Yogi Bear at the time. You could also meet Klingons. And they would always, like, intertwine them as like, hey, meet Scooby-Doo and Yogi Bear and a Klingon. And there would be, like, shots of kids, like, running through the park with balloons in their hands.
And holding
a Klingon's hand. And there was definitely a commercial of 2 Klingons on a roller coaster. And there was a ice skating show that had Klingons in it, where the Klingons ice skated around to like the Star Trek music.
I would pay anything to see a video of that.
While Gene Roddenberry turned in his grave. So. All right, folks. Well, thanks for joining us on What's Your Favorite Movie? Right? We're good.
Remember, we are just 2 schmucks with opinions on the internet.
As all internet is. The great thing is, look, when Grant and I were kids, we would play radio in your attic, pretty much.
Right.
And
we had no listeners then,
right.
just like we have no listeners today.
And here we are, 43, and in my basement, playing radio. The only difference is when we were little, we would do it for like 7 hours at a time. Now we have like an hour while my wife has the children, and then we have to wrap it up. But anyway. All right, guys. Hey, don't forget, for unique and exclusive T-shirts inspired by nostalgia, pop culture, and iconic movie themes, it's DexShirts.com. Use our exclusive promo code WYFMovie for 20% off your order. DexShirts.com. Hey, join me on Twitter, @EdSouth. Follow the show, @WYFMoviePodcast. And our email is favemoviepodcast@yahoo.com. And, folks, if you could also go onto the iTunes and just click one of the little stars next to our show and give our show a rating. It helps bring the show up in the search engine. That would be a big help. If you want to take a minute and review it, we'd appreciate that too. Subscribe. It's all good. It helps us out a lot. Grant, thank you so much for coming once again to the luxurious What's Your Favorite Movie Studios.
Thank you, sir.
All right, guys. We'll see you again real soon. Until then, it's cookie wishes and khaki dreams. Bye-bye.